These are the latest visuals on your screens. Anti-Israel protests have rocked Srinagar once again. Hundreds of youth raising anti-Israel slogans clashed with the police in the Nauhata area of Srinagar. Protesters, after Friday prayers, tried to march ahead, breaking the police cordon, forcing the security personnel to really use force. In fact, let's get you the most recent update. Fareed is joining us on the phone line. Fareed, the protests have been going on for several days now, but it seems to have taken an ugly turn now.
Yes, absolutely. These protests have been on for several days now. In fact, we saw almost, in fact, through the last week, these protests were happening at various places in the Kashmir Valley. And today, after Friday prayer, there was a call for anti-Israel protests across. And in fact, these protests have started in many parts of the Kashmir Valley, and especially in Srinagar. These protests turned violent as after Friday prayers, hundreds of protesters, including youth, tried to take out a protest march from the Jamia Masjid area of Old part of Srinagar city. And as they tried to move on, the police and CRPF, who were there present in large numbers, tried to stop them, and this triggered clashes. And as you'll be seeing in the visuals, the protesters pelted stones at the police and CRPF, who had to resort to heavy tear gas shelling and bait and charge to disperse them. Now, right now, also these clashes are continuing, and also reports are coming in from other parts of the Kashmir Valley, including Baramulla, Kulgam, and other areas where there have also been demonstrations against what they call is an illegal Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. In fact, these protesters demanding that the government of India should raise the issue with Israel and should come out with an official statement condemning the Israeli aggression in Palestine. Back to you.
Right. So, Fareed, the government and India has already voted against Israel at the United Nations. Are there any more specific demands that these protesters right now have from the government?
Well, basically, this is an expression of anger that these protesters have against what is happening in Israel. They're saying that there's not much that the government of India is doing in this regard. They're not raising this issue or not coming out with a statement against what's happening in Palestine. So it is against that they're coming out. And in fact, this anti-Israel sentiment in fact, has peaked in the Kashmir Valley. We've seen that in the last 7 to 8 days. In fact, last 10 days, we've seen continuous protests against Israel. In fact, in Kulgam, in one such anti-Israel protest some days back, one person was killed. So that tells you about the intensity of these protests and the anger that what's happening in Palestine has brought in the Kashmir Valley. And in fact, there was a call for anti-Israel protests after Friday prayers today from various separatist organizations. And in fact, heeding that people did come out. But most of these protests have been spontaneous. We have seen in the past many days, even students really coming out and protesting against what's happening in Palestine. And today there, in fact, have been widespread protests across the Kashmir Valley, and more of a violent protest in Srinagar, where these youth, hundreds of them, are clashing with the police and CRPF. In fact, we also heard news that some of them have been injured, including some police and CRPF personnel as well. But they are exercising maximum restraint, and in fact, they're just using tear gas smoke shells and bait and charge to disperse these protests. But at other places also, restraint being shown, as there are clear orders from the administration to the police and CRPF to show restraint, because this is an issue which is very emotive here in the Kashmir Valley, and there will be protests as the day of Eid comes. In fact, Eid is just a few days away. Until then, the authorities are expecting many more such protests happening against Israel in the Kashmir Valley.